we had one time, they did, that's right, that's good. We missed you. Thank you. Is that, not that from the other, she's supposed to show.
So this is a good passage because we run into this all the time, like Eddie was talking about. Right? Why do bad things happen to good people? Okay, so let's keep going though. Any questions as we read through it? There was like, I wonder what that means.
It's unique, the interchange between Satan and
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That God and Satan are having a conversation
Yeah.
at all? Yeah.
How much does Satan have to ask permission to put trials on us? And God gives the permission. I mean, where is that?
Right. What else?
And I think the answer to that is always in God's providence. What is God doing? Ultimately, what is God doing ultimately?
So you think, so the part of the question here is we see something that is not, not normally privy to.
Exactly.
We see angels and Satan and God having a discussion about something.
We may find out later, but we wouldn't know right now. And then God's providence goes from eternity to eternity, which is, I hate to say it, but it's all eternity, isn't it?
That gets into a little bit more thing of lots of times we like to, afterwards, we'll like, okay, we'll put some good meaning on something. And that really is just us putting a good meaning on something so that we feel better, right? Because we really don't understand God, maybe. Anyway, I'm supposed to just ask you guys about stuff. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's look at the people. Who's in this one?
Job's entire family.
Job and
Satan's.
His family, right? Satan.
His servants.
His servants. God.
His children.
Yeah, his children.
Just people around who knew Job
Mhm.
have seen all of this and wondered why.
Yes.
What did he do?
Yeah.
They had to know
Uh-huh.
Job's lifestyle and stuff. And so they had to be wondering.
Yeah. He was famous. He was
well known.
Yeah, he was well known, exactly. And if we keep reading through Job, we're going to see some of that. But just here, interesting. What else? Anything else?
It always pops out at me, the question of were the children following their fathers spiritually? The children, were they getting together and having food and wine, gluttony and
Or were they praising God during that time?
yeah. Were they doing
stuff.
what God wanted them to do?
Well, it does say
Doesn't tell us.
perhaps.
It doesn't tell us.
Well, it does say perhaps. When Job did the sacrifice, he said, maybe my kids have done this. So
Yeah,
that to me would,
but in this
Why
chapter,
not?
just this chapter, when you first read it, as if you've never read it before, it pops out to me. Are the children spiritual and wise? And are they doing for their families, teaching their families what they should? It just pops out at me.
Does the passage say anything about that being a cause for what God did?
I think that's beyond the scope of the
No, it's
passage.
not a cause, it's
No.
just,
So it may be a fact, but we might distract ourselves by going down that path.
What I wonder is why didn't those children invite mom and dad? Maybe from a grandparent's point of view here, Why
They
did
couldn't because then Job would have got killed and then that would have been the end of the story, okay? And that couldn't have happened, okay? So
Sabians.
maybe the wife, but the wife is in the rest of the book of Job and so she's got, yeah, so Yeah,
The Sabians, so back to that.
And the Chaldeans.
Or how it is to be in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, my Bible says he's going by that.
Yeah,
If I
the
pronounce it.
Sabians and the Chaldeans, exactly. And that's an interesting one too, because it's like, who causes nations to do stuff? Like, this interesting thing to look at stuff that's happening. It's like, who's in that? And here, this first chapter, it seems like, yes. And some of the stuff in here and some of the wording is interesting, like, so who is actually doing this? Is God doing it? Or is Satan doing it? Looking at the word closely as we look through there. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's look at God. So we see God in here, right? What are we learning about God's character in this passage? What are we learning about God in this passage? Something comfortable or uncomfortable? Why uncomfortable?
Because Job is really upright and one of the best, and God's like, yeah, go ahead, take everything he's got. And
Yeah.
why would God even talk to, I mean, he threw Lucifer out of heaven, so he would be, it would be like, okay, see you, bye, I'm done with you. And yet he's having that conversation and saying, why don't I just, I mean, that blows my mind that he would even be speaking to Satan. Even though Job is so upright, I'm like, why would he even bother?
But this passage shows that even though God kicked him out of heaven, he is still subject to God. Because it was a day when all the angels came to report to God, and Satan came too.
Right.
So he is still God's still completely has complete control over him.
Okay.
It just allows him to
Right.
take where he goes.
God limited Satan.
Mhm.
Until
Yeah,
he
did limit him.
Mhm.
You can do so much, but
Right.
you can't do.
Right, that's because we haven't read chapter 2 yet, but we'll ignore that piece, okay?
But he just gives him more leniency then, or gives him more, not authority, but more.
Right.
More.
Right.
Role.
It still gets us back to Pam's question of, I'm following God, I'm doing the right thing. This makes me uncomfortable.
It does me, when I first read that and I say to myself, hey, God says to Satan, have you considered?
Right, he brings it up.
If God didn't already know,
And,
have you considered?
Mhm.
Let's put the spotlight on Job here.
right. So, why? God does that to Satan.
Or Satan does that to God.
No, I think-
No, it started with God saying, hey, Satan, have you seen my guy?
Oh.
And I really think that particular point, God is using Satan.
Mhm.
And I know that I'm kind of jumping ahead also, but this passage is for us.
Uh-huh.
It's written for us. And when we come back and we look at this, we realize so much that's in here that is for us. And and we can begin to understand it. I know we're going through that study in Lamentation. And so much of it jumps off at you and says, okay, this is God. He operates like this to teach us, to sanctify us.
And maybe he's teaching the Chaldeans too. Maybe he decided to have this little deal with Satan so that he could show the Chaldeans.
Or those guys, never mind.
Like I said, though, it is an uncomfortable passage, but then if you look at it in the totality of scripture, it also says count it all joy.
Yeah.
You know,
The last verse.
look what,
Charge
it?
them not.
yeah,
Sin.
exactly. So
So what's this teaching about God?
He's a sovereign.
he's sovereign, yes.
He can do what he wants.
He sees us for who we are. This is just part of the package that we've talked about a couple weeks now about looking at one particular verse and pulling it out, right? So for non-Christians and non-believers looking at this, all of the Old Testament, there's so many things in there that you're like, why would God do that? He killed the children, he killed the women, he burned people, he killed off, divorce, do all these things. And then you got this one guy who can point the finger at him, and for a belief, we need to know what this talks about God, because people are gonna say, but I don't want to follow a God that does that.
Mhm.
Because God is nothing but love, not the rest of the attributes. How could a loving God do that? We judge God.
But it goes, shows like we said, the sovereignty of God, because God knows, Satan, you're screwed from the beginning in this conversation. I'm doing this to prove a point. God knows what Job's gonna do, how he's gonna react. And to prove a point to Satan.
When you look at this, we kind of focus on Job. And in the back of your mind, you sort of say, wait a minute, why are all his children? Well, my belief is that God didn't bring anything in any one of those children's life. It wasn't for their good. It's not talked about, but I believe that about God. God's love. He didn't offhandedly kill his children just to teach Job something. He was working on each one of them for miserable lives.
This knowledge, I agree. I mean.
What is it? Right, so what's it mean that God is sovereign and he works for the good of all those who love him? Yeah. Romans 8:28. Yeah. Huh. A little uncomfortable.
Because we see it going on now, I mean, because I receive all this information, he's happening, in some of the countries, especially like the Congo and Nigeria, and what's happening when they go into a church and they behead people and children and all, and you think, God, why are you allowing this to these faithful Christians, and I really struggle with that part. In my prayer time, I really struggle with what at least the martyrs and those that are suffering and what's going on in some of the other countries that we live here so comfortably,
We definitely live here comfortably.
Yeah.
Okay, we want to get to us. But do we see anything pointing to the gospel here?
Throughout the whole Bible, God and Satan have been at war with each other. And that is reflected in the gospel. Because Jesus defeated.
How does this passage hint that God needs to act to save his people?
Because his people are stupid and they want to do their own thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you want your own way. And you just have to realize that God's gonna say, excuse me, that's not my way, so why? You have to rethink it.
Because Job was helpless.
Job was helpless.
Kids were awful.
And we are helpless.
It's always amazing, though, to me that he did not turn from God with all that God let happen to him. That's such an inspiration, because I don't know that I would. And I love the Lord too, but wow, to go through all that.
And then have your wife say, well, just curse God and die,
Yeah.
you know?
We haven't got there yet.
I mean, we're all doing this, and it's just amazing to me, at that particular point, it's like, he really doesn't, dress her down or anything, he just goes on.
Does it show us that God is still trying to help us see what he wants for us
Yes.
when we do not see it?
I think that the message there, you got to get to the end of Job and you got to see
Yeah.
What does Job's conversation with God look like?
Those last 4 chapters.
That
Amazing.
kind of adds a lot, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves. A lot of more stuff in Job, which is amazing stuff. But looking just at chapter 1, yeah, it shows our total dependence. I mean, there's stuff happening right now that we know nothing about. Does that change what we should be doing? Does that change anything in your life?
I think Nanette said something about the Lord gives and the Lord takes away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he stated right here that way. But then there's more to that. The Lord gives, the Lord takes away, and the Lord gives.
He restores.
He restores more than there was in the past. He did the same thing with Abraham, and so let's say we lose here upon this earth.
Mm-hmm.
We're part of those nations that are being beheaded, et cetera. We're living for the Lord, and it seems like it's so unjust that we should be martyred. And yet we know that we who follow him have what in front of us.
Right.
More than we could ever begin to imagine. I mean, we're told, but to be in the presence of God forever, to inherit with Christ, to be. I know I'm reading into it. That's a look at us at this point, I guess.
Satan's goal in this was not to take away his comforts of earth. His goal was to separate him from Christ. He wanted him to not deny him, and that's what God saved. God already won at this point. There was no battle here. He's not fighting Satan. He's already won, but he's allowing that to happen to grow us, like you said. But his ultimate goal was to separate him. And that's his ultimate goal for us. And he thought the way I could do it is to take away all this stuff. And then again, of course, he still loses again.
The only reason he's following you is because you've been taking care of him. Right?
It's a very short-sighted vision, if that were true.
Which sometimes people get hung up on stuff.
Well,
Yeah, that's the short-sighted.
maybe that gets us right to this next question. Look at our life.
Yeah.
So
Long-term.
why are you following God?
Yeah, where is our security? Really?
And is it because life is great? And as long as I do the right things, God takes care of me? And what if bad things happen?
I think looking at it like Nanette said, when bad things happen, looking at it of these situations. If Satan is involved, which he is, or sin, I don't know. The goal is for us to turn from God, not to be hurt, not to be dying slowly, not all this stuff. The goal is, from Satan's point of view, is for us to turn from God. Which kind of means it doesn't matter what's happening. Satan knew who God was.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's just say that we have a Christian and they do turn from God, and let's say they go and they end up divorcing their husband, say, for instance.
Yeah, weird, okay.
For a friend, yeah, and turn, shake their fist at God and say, I'm not, take this away. He doesn't ever let go. Like, it's who we are in him that continues to carry us. He didn't let Job go. It's not like he took his hand off of Job. He just allowed some things to happen, but he was holding him the entire time. And unlike that divorced person, he turned to him, he fell to his knees and came, and he just repaired I can't think of the word, repaired the fields of the locusts of Eden, repaired the fields of the locusts of Eden, restored, yes, whatever they were, he restored. But he didn't let go. He didn't let go of Job and just say, go, no matter whether he was on his knees or he hadn't been, he was out.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thought of what if Job had. The book would be very different.
Well, we
But-
have other books that are like.
Exactly. We got some other books that are like, oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which actually, that's an interesting point in looking at Job going, oh, man, he was just a guy. He was just a guy.
Maybe we just, as far as a look at our life, that we need to realize that everything we have, whether we have a lot or we have little, everything is from God. He's allowing us to have this and have that. And we need to be thankful and happy where we are.
We're not at it.
Right. What, but I mean, we need to be happy where we are, not keep striving to have what somebody else has, like the Joneses. Well, so-and-so unsaved person or saved person that God has blessed immensely, and they have a gazillion dollars.
Right.
That's irrelevant, because that's just all whatever. You have to stay focused on God and be thankful for the blessings that He bestows on. But if He gives you health blessings but not material, that's okay too. Or vice versa, because be happy where you are.
Right.
I just have always thought, and I don't know if this makes sense or not, but over the years, and my family's unsaved and stuff, but you know, and I used to always hear, you're so lucky, you're so lucky. No, I'm not lucky. I'm blessed. We have been blessed over the years, but I would rather have, and I said this years ago, I would rather have nothing and live in a shack and have Craig and my boys than have all kinds of things of the world and not have them. It's not a trade. I don't want that trade. Just like, same thing with God. I don't want all this great worldly stuff and not have God. I don't want that. I'd rather have nothing and have God. That makes sense.
What else? What's this mean to you? We look through this chapter 1, we see God and we see Job.
Job was focused on God.
Was focused on God.
We always want to make a story of it and say, oh, well, this happened so that I would grow in this way, or this happened so that I would see this. And it really didn't have anything to do with Job growing or anything. It had to do with saved God. And well, the end, yes, trusting that. I think we can trust. They're the kids who all died, and I'm not sure it had anything to do with them. It's this huge battle that's beyond us that we're part of.
So what's that mean for us? How's that impact your life, my life?
Well, this is a struggle I have. The life is random. You know, stuff happens and it might have to do with you and it might not. You might be part of a battle that you're just a foot soldier and something happens. Your job is to keep loving God.
Yep.
And if you look back at verse 5, where it said Job did this continually, this was a habit for him to, like she was saying, that, you know, God, Job was focused on God. Not that you'd ever want any of us to go through any of this, but we all have hard times in different ways. It's not if, it's when, right? We all do. But if we're prepared for it, I mean, I don't know how you never prepared for what he went through, but because his faith was already so focused and strong, he dealt with it and still praised God. I mean, amazing. But we should be prepared. We need to be prepared. Because they do have that.
If he didn't have that closeness with God, he might not have dealt with it as well. If he didn't have that closeness, maybe.
Well, for me, that gets back to if he didn't, would God have said, hey, Satan, look at my marginal guy down there that probably can't do the right thing anyway.
I mean, he said you can do what you want to him, but don't touch his
person.
life.
That's right. Yeah, well, that's until chapter 2, so we'll stay there right now, but chapter 2, it gets ugly.
Right.
I know, but chapter 2, Job's gonna say, yeah, but he's still good, he's still healthy, you haven't done anything to him, and God's gonna say, okay,
Until.
whatever you want, just don't kill him.
Mhm.
And his life is gonna get miserable.
Right.
You think this was bad, it's gonna get way worse.
I think when I read this, I look at what it does for me. I look at like the verse 21 and 22. when
Mhm.
he's, You know, and what he's feeling, you know, naked I came into the world or whatever, especially in 22 and all this, Job sin not. When I'm going through those trials or, you know, because I know I'm older, so I know death is coming sooner than, you know, because I'm getting older and, you know, it's gonna happen. But, you know, there's times that I'll be faithful and I won't be blaming God and, you know, and not cursing because I don't curse, but I mean, you know, what I mean, because he's allowing suffering that I might go through because I don't know how my life is gonna end, you know, I mean, it's physically, you know, or something to my family. You know, to be or trust him during that time. I always think of Johnny Erickson Tyler because she's so faithful, yet she still struggles, you know, and with pain and what she's going through, but yet God has used, you know, what has happened to her to reach many people, you know. Anyway, so I want to be a testimony in my later days and to see God, yes, you're in control right now. And like I always had 4 hours sleep. I was up with pain during the night and it's like, oh God, I want to be up for going to church, you know, I was tempted not to go, you know, because I could fall asleep at 8 o'clock. Anyway, you know, no, it wasn't for me that, you know, it's just, you know, just to be faithful during that time, not question him, why are you allowing me to suffer now when you want me to be in church? You know what I mean? It's just, please let me sleep. Let me sleep, Lord, but he said no.
Makes me think of our Lamentations thing. Is that what you were just gonna say?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's how God uses it. Like he didn't deny, like we can't be Christians and say, oh, this just really sucks. Maybe we should say that really, you know, but what does it do? When we lament, where does it lead us? And so he didn't deny that this was a really bad situation. He was falling on his knees, but he did it the right way. He said, this really sucks.
Yeah, finally I got up and read my Bible and did the devotions and prayed times. That was like, okay, here I am, you know. I'm doing that for 2 hours, so, you know, so something good did come out of it. No.
And you're here, you didn't stay
Oh,
home.
yeah, no, I don't sleep good on Saturday night.
I find it
I just,
very,
You know,
I'm sorry, I find it very interesting that Job was very likely the very first book ever penned. In other words, first writings ever penned in scriptures. And so all of those who came afterwards, the patriarchs, everybody, you know, whether they had Job or not, I have no idea. But with what Job was going through, and he didn't have the rest of scripture like we do, you know, just amazing, just amazes me the kind of relationship he had with God. So number one, so, you know, I can kind of look at myself and go, okay, how would I respond? Number one, you know, and I have the rest of scripture, I have, you know, the Spirit of God, I have all those things. How would I respond? And then I look at the rest of the scriptures and I find out how many times reference is made to Job. And that, you know, what is God teaching, not just Job and his family, but generations and generations and generations to come.
It's obvious why God had Job put in a book.
Yes, ma'am.
And just for a little bit of context, Job was probably a peer of Abraham in that kind of time frame, before any of the law that had happened in that time. So before Moses was here, before any of that, so before any of the other books got penned, this is likely when Job was.
I think it's interesting as we were reading through this, I always look at King David as someone who is a good role model, if you will. Because God said he's described as a man after God's own heart. And it's good because he's a man after God's own heart, but yet he still struggled with all these things. But then you look at Job, and God says, talking to Satan, there is none like him on earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil. Well, wouldn't that be a lot better of a role model to live up to? Someone who fears God and shuns evil.
Yeah, but King David, that is way easier to tell the stories of the kids than, I mean, to do that with the kids on Job. Hey, Job, look at this. All you have to do is be upright and. Yeah.
Yep.
Don't you wanna be like Job?
And they say, no, I don't want boogers all over me.
It's like, oh my goodness. What,
Well,
Okay.
they're weeping.
when we're looking at our life, what changes? We read through this and what is a challenge to you to like, after I read this, what did I learn?
Me, and it was what I'm going through.
Good.
To stay more focused on it. I've always stayed more focused on it.
And Craig last week, was it last week, he said he didn't want to deal with Job. That was funny, because here we are, he was talking about Job, he said, "No, I don't want to go there, I don't want to go."
He knew. It was like Jim.
I'll go there. I got no qualms.
I mean, like, thinking about what Job went through, I think.
Yeah. What else? What else changes in your life? You read this and you go, wow, this is a challenge for me.
Oh, really, like me trusting him. Big time,
Yeah.
needing to. Yeah, big.
I just give a little advertisement, seeing as how I'm teaching next week. I think we're gonna get Job 40.
Job 40.
He's jumping all the way ahead.
It could be 40, could be 41, 42, somewhere in there,
So
so
good.
why not?
For me, I am so comfortable because I'm so blessed. And sometimes I have trouble distinguishing between my faithfulness because I'm so blessed
Uh-huh.
and my faithfulness because I love God. And I can say, no, God is my God. I'm going to follow him no matter what.
Don't know.
But I'm scared to death to even say that when I read this.
Especially if there's
Exactly.
been times when you haven't been, I mean, I know there are times that I haven't been, and that's hurts.
Yeah.
Because I know I hurt God, the times that I wasn't faithful, and I did the complaining, and I did all those things that Joe didn't do.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And yet it's still a challenge to say, no, what should my focus be? What do I want it to be? What do I want it to be?
Why are you scared? Why do we say, I'm scared to say that out loud? What is the fear?
That God will come to pass what we're saying.
That God will take away all of our stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
What?
scary, but then in the end, again, it's a big picture, like, don't we desire to be as close as we can for him to purify us? And if he has to do it that way, like with my cancer, like, if he has to do it this way, yeah, I don't like that here, but we gotta be heaven minded, we gotta be right. He's changing us, he's moving us, and that is our ultimate, so our human side's gonna fear, it's gonna be scary, yeah.
But the ultimate goal is we're gonna be
Exactly.
in heaven with him.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But Job does question God, and that's what we're gonna talk about
so
next
right
week.
now we are being.
Just like I said, back in my voice.
Okay.
I don't want to be chat with my voice, so how do I differentiate? I get scared too.
Okay, I have 5 minutes over and I gotta run upstairs, and so I've cut into my time, so great discussion. Let's pray and we'll come back next week.